Most people who come to this teaching have done the respectable thing first. They have tried to know themselves by adding more and more to what they already were. More books, more methods, more explanations, more refinement of the person they thought they were improving. And that makes sense, because the mind is excellent at organizing, naming, comparing, remembering, and defending. So when the question is, who am I? The mind naturally reaches for the same tool it uses for everything else: accumulation. You read enough, sit long enough, understand enough, and surely the answer will arrive as another piece of knowledge, another clean sentence you can carry home. And yet the very seriousness that made you persistent also exposed the crack, because every answer that sounded final still left a residue. Every method left the one who was practicing still standing there, still unfinished, still asking, still unable to say with certainty what remained once the borrowed identities had been set down. That is not failure, it is intelligence. And people like you hold that assumption because you took the question seriously enough to see that shallow answers do not survive contact with lived experience. What is remarkable is not that you were confused, but that you noticed confusion was being layered over something simpler, something older, something that did not arrive with the books and does not leave when the books are closed. He was pointing straight at that. Nisargadatta does not begin by decorating the self. He begins by stripping the self down until only the undeniable remains. I am is not a concept for him. It is the first certainty before any story about family, history, achievement, failure, gender, status, or spiritual progress has been attached. Before I am this, before I am that, before I am better, before I am broken, there is the bare fact of presence, and that fact does not ask permission from memory. This is why the question feels so dangerous and so simple at once, because if I am is primary, then everything built on top of it is secondary, and secondary things are useful only as long as you remember they are secondary. The trouble begins when the secondary claims the authority of the primary. You say, I am tired, and the statement is immediate. But what is immediate is not the tiredness, it is the knowing of tiredness. You say, I am anxious, and again, the anxiety is real enough in experience, but the knower of the anxiety is not the anxiety. You say, I am someone who has failed, and that sentence may carry years of weight, but the sentence itself is an inference laid on top of being, not being itself. He saw that the whole machinery of suffering depends on this simple confusion, the fusion of awareness with whatever appears in awareness. And once that fusion happens, the mind keeps trying to solve identity as if identity were a puzzle inside the same frame that created the puzzle. That is why every new method gives a moment of relief and then the old restlessness returns. Not because the method is worthless, but because it was applied to the wrong layer. You can clean the surface of water forever, and still never touch the fact that the water is water. He would not let you stop at a polished personality, because polished personality is still a mask, and masks cannot answer the question of being. This is the crack in the common assumption, and it is the crack you may have already felt after the retreat ended, after the silence was gone, after the structure disappeared, after the room, the group, the teaching, and the atmosphere faded. You returned to ordinary life, and there it was again, the same restlessness, the same unfinished sensation, the same subtle pressure of self-definition. Not a failure of the retreat, not proof that nothing happened, but proof that what you are is not something the retreat created, and not something the retreat can remove. The weather changed, the sky did not. The thought patterns shifted, the knowing remained. The person you habitually call me rose and fell with circumstance, but the simple fact that you are was already there, untouched by the passing scene. That is why the Master's language is so exact, because he is not trying to make the self feel better, he is trying to make the false center collapse under the weight of its own assumptions. Not through attack, but through clarity. Not by telling you to become someone else, but by showing you that the one who wants to become someone else is already secondary. Once that is seen, the pursuit changes shape. You are no longer trying to reach being through improvement, because being is what allows improvement to be noticed at all. You are no longer trying to manufacture certainty, because certainty is not a mental trophy. It is the immediate fact that there is awareness here, now, before any thought about it. This is where Nisargadatta becomes relentless. He keeps bringing the mind back to the one point it cannot outrun, the point before description. The mind wants qualifications, he gives negation. The mind wants identity, he removes identity. The mind wants a ladder, he points to the ground that was never missing. You are not the body, because the body is known. You are not the mind, because the mind is known. You are not the story, because the story is known. And if all known things can be observed, then the observer cannot be reduced to the observed. That is the pressure in his teaching, and it is not abstract pressure, it is existential pressure, the kind that rearranges the floor under your feet. Because once you begin to notice that I am precedes I am this, your entire relationship to experience changes. The fear that used to feel like a definition becomes an event. The memory that used to feel like an identity becomes a passing form. The role that used to feel solid becomes something you are wearing, not something you are made of. That is not a small change. It is a total shift in where you stand. And here is where the teaching deepens past understanding into recognition. Recognition is not a thought saying, yes, that makes sense. Recognition is the strange relief of meeting something so basic you were never able to see it because it was the very light by which you saw anything else. This is why the simplest statement can unsettle a life built on complexity. I am. Not, I am successful. Not, I am spiritual. Not, I am wounded. Not, I am seeking. Just I am. Everything else is inference. Everything else is commentary. Everything else comes after the fact. The river does not need to explain its movement to the sky, and the sky does not need to borrow the river's motion in order to exist. The river can rush, the banks can erode, the light can change on the surface, but the vastness that contains the whole scene is not improved by any of it, and not diminished by any of it either. That is the image, and now set it down. Because the point is not the river. The point is what remains unchanged while the river of experience keeps moving. You already know this from ordinary life, from the moment a day gets heavy and then lightens, from the moment a crowd leaves and the room becomes quiet, from the moment the mind stops narrating for half a second and something unmistakable stands there before words begin again. That interval is not empty in the way the mind fears emptiness. It is full in the way presence is full. It is full of the fact that you were never absent from your own knowing. So when Nisargadatta says the only certainty is, I am, he is not giving you another doctrine to admire. He is taking away what was never yours, so that what is yours can stand without decoration. This is why the teaching can feel severe to the part of you that wants spiritual progress as a polished identity. It offers no costume, no achievement, no final image of yourself to carry around. It gives you something more exact. It gives you back the first fact, and once that fact is clear, the rest of the search is seen for what it always was, a movement around what never moved. What was described here is not philosophy you carry in your head. It is the one certainty that survives every loss of certainty. You are not behind. You have not been failing. You have been circling something so close that the mind kept overlooking it. And now that the circle has thinned, you can feel what was always there, not as an idea, but as the simple, undeniable fact of being. This is where the teaching stops. Not because it ran out, because what continues from here cannot be improved by explanation. It can only be recognized. And recognition has already begun. What he was pointing at is not a state you reach. It is what is already aware of reaching and not reaching. And what is aware was never the problem. Now be still.